Hello everybody, Vic here with another video, and again we're talking horror on Tubi, Volume 2. As I've said in the last video, one of the great things for horror fans available to you as a horror fan now is Tubi. It has a huge selection of 80s horror films, 90s horror films, 2000 horror films, new horror films, original horror film originals. They got a Terror Train remake on Tubi that I haven't seen yet, but Nick Arcana tells me it's okay. But for all things horror, if you want just a huge selection of movies at your fingertip, at your disposal, with ads, but once you get used to the ads, I feel like they're not that bad. Tubi is your place. I've tried Shudder. Amazon Prime has some gems too, but in terms of a one-stop shop place for horror films, Tubi is your best mix of mainstream, independent, cult B movies. It's just the best thing going right now. So I'm watching probably 4 or 5 horror films on Tubi every month. Sometimes 4 or 5 in a week. I don't know. It's a lot of free time going towards Tubi. But today I got some more recommendations for you, some things I've seen recently that I find that you guys might enjoy as well. Let's start off with a not recent, but it came out in the last 10 years, a horror film called Fender Bender. Now, this is all about a young woman driver gets into a fender bender with an older man. They exchange insurance information. And then she goes home and suddenly this dude just won't leave her alone. He starts stalking her house, stalking her friends. It is, fender bender gone terribly wrong. You can't control who you get into an accident with. And she just happens to get in an accident with an absolute psychotic maniac. So then he's basically trying to get in the house, trying to kill her and her friends. I won't give away the ending, but it was one of those movies where you could tell that if it had done well, they may have tried to have done a franchise out of this because the fender bender killer, it's just a gimmick. He's going around doing this from town to town, getting into fender benders intentionally, and then stalking the people that he gets in accidents with. So you could have turned this into a franchise, but it was not the kind of movie that was probably going to get a sequel. Acting is decent, character-wise. It's a pretty decent final girl in this film, so that's probably what stood out to me more so than the killer was that it was a decent final girl. So I do recommend Fender Bender. All right, let's talk Body Bags, 1994. This is an anthology film that's actually done by some of the greats here, and John Carpenter is kind of hosting it, wraparound story-wise, and the first story in the anthology of the film is actually directed by John Carpenter. And the thing is, horror anthology films, are they hit and miss? Sort of, but I've noticed that almost in every horror anthology film, there's usually at least one story that almost makes the entire movie a worthwhile experience of having watched it. Very rarely do you get a horror anthology film where you hate all the stories in the movie. Now, batting average-wise, if you get lucky, 2 out of the 3 are pretty good, and in rare cases, you get something where all 3 anthology films or all 3 stories are fantastic. That's more rare, hard to find, but it does exist. They're out there. Body Bags, for me, I would say 2 out of the 3 stories I like a lot. But the very first story, directed by John Carpenter, I think it might be called The Gas Station. It is really good, really solid. It's a solid 15 minutes of horror, suspense. Even if you don't watch Body Bags, this opening story, The Gas Station, I think it's on YouTube by itself. So I'd even just watch that if you get a chance. It's worth watching, especially if you like the John Carpenter style. There's actually some actors in here that you'll notice from all the previous John Carpenter movies. There's some John Carpenter mainstays who always show up. It has a fun ending as well. So heavily recommend Body Bags. But if you don't have time to watch the entire movie, at least watch the opening story. I think it's on YouTube. All right, let's move on to a film called The Drifter. A woman who works in the corporate world, on her way home from some business thing, picks up a hitchhiker. They have a fling at a hotel. She tells him afterwards, listen, I got to get back to my normal life. It was nice knowing you. Hit the road, hitchhiker, whatever. She goes back to Los Angeles, but then this hitchhiker will not go away. He's calling her. He's asking her for daily rendezvous, basically interfering with her actual life, which she does not want. And then this whole crazy mystery unfolds with this guy, the hitchhiker, and also the girl's would-be husband, knowing about the hitchhiker, knowing that she had the fling. It's hard to tell who's the villain and who's the hero in this movie. The final girl, main actress, does a great job with this film. And it's just, again, one of those films where, again, if it's like a Sunday afternoon, a rainy day, you're turned on. It's just interesting enough to hold your attention and get you to the end of the movie because you want to see what happens. The ending, it's kind of shaky, to be honest, a little bit. It doesn't make much sense. It's one of those movies where after you see it, the ending reveals certain information that makes you question the entire story. None of it seems to actually make sense going by the ending, but if you can get past that, I think you will not feel like you had regretted the experience of watching it. So, The Drifter horror film on YouTube, I do recommend it. All right, let's talk about The Rage Carrie 2. Some of you may remember this from, I want to say, the late 90s, early 2000s. Of course, it's technically a sequel to Carrie. We have a distant relative of Carrie who has the same power, who's in the same situation where the bullies at her school will not leave her alone, keep messing with her, bringing out her power slowly, eventually at the end, gonna make her go absolute batshit insane and kill every popular kid within the proximity of her powers. Listen, if you like Carrie, if you like the Carrie remake, you'll like The Rage Carrie too. It has the same sort of elements there, has a good final girl, a good couple relationship with the final girl and the final guy, and you have all chaos breaks loose at this party at the end when she's finally pushed to her breaking point, and all her powers come out, and all the damn popular kids who bullied her. I feel bad for you because she's gonna just really make the little part remaining of your life miserable as hell. So The Rage Carrie 2 definitely is a recommendation. And again, even if you've seen it before, I'd say it's one of those that's actually worth a rewatch, I would say too. So all right, finally for this rendition, we're going to talk about a movie called The Caller. The Caller is basically a woman's living alone in the woods in a cabin, and then the guy who plays Dr. Loomis in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, that actor, he shows up at her house claiming that his car broke down, that he needs a phone. And, you know, this movie's hard to figure out because she lets the guy in to use the phone, and he is acting weird, and he supposedly calls the auto shop to come get the car, but the way they frame the phone call, it seems like he could be lying. And really, for the first half of the movie, you actually don't know which of them is the villain. You don't know who is basically conning who between him and her. So that's what's very interesting. Usually in the first half of a movie, you establish who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist. This movie plays with that in a way that I haven't seen. There's also a lot of good dialogue in this movie. Whoever wrote the script has a great back and forth conversation between the guy and the girl. And this damn ending, the movie The Caller, you will not in a million years guess what this ending has for you. This is a surprise ending of all surprise endings. I still don't know after seeing the ending if I know exactly what this movie's about, but I'm interested. I was intrigued all throughout. I wanted to see how it ended, and they really went for it with the ending. I'll say that. So if you get a chance, watch The Caller. Okay, I do actually have one more that I want to talk about, and it's the sequel to When a Stranger Calls. So When a Stranger Calls, of course, is an 80s horror film. They had a remake in the 2000s as well, but a lot of people don't know there's a sequel from the 90s called When a Stranger Calls Back. And it has an actress who was in the movie The Stepfather, the teenage girl in The Stepfather's hair. And I've always liked her everything. She's also in a movie called Cutting Class. So I've always liked her everything I've seen her in. And it also brings back the two leads from When a Stranger Calls. So it's like 1994-ish. And what stands out about this movie in a very positive way is that the opening 10 minutes is fantastic. You have basically the same setup. You have a babysitter who's alone. The kids are upstairs. But instead of getting a call, someone shows up at the front door and knocks. Again, just like the damn movie The Caller, this guy's saying that his car broke down and that he needs to come in to make a phone call, but she doesn't let him in. This opening 10 minutes, man, I mean, say what you want about the rest of the movie, which is okay, probably goes down more of a drama thriller route versus horror, but the first 10 minutes, man, of when a stranger calls back, it's not as good as the opening of Scream, but it's one of the better horror openings I've seen. And similar to Body Bags, I would say that if you don't watch the entire movie, at least on YouTube, watch the opening 10, 15 minutes of this movie because the performance is great. It's creepy as hell. This guy keeps coming back to her door, keeps knocking, keeps asking to come in. She won't let him in. And it's just a really standout opening in horror films. So, but yeah, those are the recommendations I have for you for now. If you like the video, of course, in the comments also, of course, let me know. Do you have any more horror Tubi recommendations that you can give the community here? Because I'm enjoying just going through Tubi's horror selection. You know, every week I'm turning on something and building up a list of horror movies I never knew existed. So as a horror fan, I think Tubi is definitely a friend. And again, if you like the video, hit the like button, the thumbs up, and subscribe if you're not. And we'll we'll have some more horror Tubi recommendations for you in the very near future. Until next time, you guys take care.